Hey guys, how we doing? I am here with this monster of a human being, Joey Szatmary of Szatstrength. Thank you for checking this out. What the fuck? We're just gonna keep rolling. Thanks for coming in, guys. If you do not know who Joey is, you need to check out all of his information, which will be below this video. But Joey, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, excited to be here.
This is a really, really cool collab that we got to do with you and Juji, right? And what we're doing here today is we're gonna be going over some, I'm not even gonna call it corrective exercises. I'm gonna call it exercising correctly. Ooh. We were working together this week, this last couple days, right?
Yeah,
not even weekend. Train your ass off, kicked my butt. So
I bet.
Oh, jeez.
From everything I went through, I can only imagine. It's intense.
So Dave and I had the absolute pleasure of kicking Juji's and Joey's butt for the last couple days. And there were a few things that we noticed during the training session that we figured we'd make a really good video for you guys. Lower back, hips, pelvis, all this stuff that we kind of noticed that we saw with Joey while he was training. We are going to be taking a look at how you can correct some of these issues. I know lower back pain sucks. We've both had lower back pain. Nobody enjoys it. It's not really fun for anybody involved. And what we wanted to share today is really going over things that you can implement into your training to correct some of the issues that Joey, even myself, have gone through over the last several years. So let's jump right into this with the very first exercise. All right, guys, exercise number one, and it's more of a diagnostic tool. We need to make sure that we have global hip extension through both sides of Joey's hip. We need to make sure the glutes are doing their job, hamstrings are doing their job, and that torso and that trunk is stabilizing that pelvis. If we are having issues with our pelvis rocking, which is kind of what we saw, we need to make sure and kind of diagnose exactly what's going on and why it's doing that. So what I want you to do, we're going to get on this and we're going to go one-legged back extensions. You ever done those before?
No.
All right, this is great. This is very real. So I want you to stick both feet in like you would a normal back extension. Yep, and now you just come forward. Yep, go all the way down. So what I want you to do is kick one leg out. Put it just right on top of that pad. So from here, I want you to, just like we were doing before, come right up like you would a normal back extension. Good. So if you watch to the side here, yep, go down. So we're looking for what's firing when. So let's see it again. Doesn't look too bad, but if you notice, he has a tendency of overextending. So what I want you to do, round that, so relax at the bottom, kind of round those shoulders forward a little bit for me. Yep, you can cross those arms. I want you to stabilize that torso, stabilize that core like you're bracing. Good. And all I want you to do is push the hips forward into that pad. Right there. So that's hip extension. That's utilizing the glutes, utilizing the hamstrings together. What we don't want to see is, we'll just go back to the other side, the other thing you're doing, is coming up and overextending, right? So if I were to be checking this side out, we got to make sure we can do it physically. He's able to do that. He's strong enough to do it. So any sort of issue that he may be having with this exercise is coming more for a coordination reason as opposed to a strength issue. So let's see it one more time. Stabilize here. Yep, come right through, press it through. You see how he's not on this one now. I think he's just getting tired, so switch legs. But you can see how as soon as we extend that hip, a lot of the times we want to hyperextend that lower back as well. So that's what we're kind of trying to see. We're trying to see where the movement's coming from and if it's something we can correct with exercise or if it's something that we need to correct via coordination or actual cueing. So same thing over here. Just kind of, yep, squeeze, brace, press that hip straight through. Right there. Now where are you feeling that the most?
Kind of my glutes.
In your glute? Perfect.
Yeah.
Like at the top of the glute?
Yeah.
Anything in the low back?
Not really.
Good. Let's see one more. Good squeeze through. Perfect. So guys, you can rest. So that's the first exercise when you're trying to deal with this particular issue. We need to make sure that that hip extension is there. The glutes are doing their job and we're not overcompensating with that lower back of those hamstrings. Joey, how'd that feel?
I felt a lot better, I think, right off the bat. If I were to do these without, Sam giving me any guidance, I probably would have been overextending a lot, putting a lot more fatigue into my lower back and not utilizing the glutes as much or isolating them as much. So kind of like we were talking about, our main goal in training is to train as much as possible as we can and not over fatigue ourselves so that it keeps us from training. So little stuff like this where we're mitigating fatigue, right, and being able to train harder and longer these are things that make a big difference for guys like myself who are, top level athletes where we're trying to train all the time. So this is very valuable information for me and anybody else.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be a top level athlete to get something out of this, right? This could be a great learning tool for someone who's just starting out to learn how to use that hip hinge, right? Like you work with a lot of athletes, with a lot of strength athletes, sports, whatever.
Yeah.
And how many times have you been trying to teach somebody how to hinge and they just don't understand it? It just doesn't make sense, right? So if we can put them in a position where their body can start to learn that process and learn how to get into those positions and stabilize it in a way where it's safe, they're not going to hurt themselves, I mean, the sky's the limit, right?
And even from a strength perspective, the cue that he was giving me from doing this exercise about driving my hips into the pad reminded me instantly of locking out a deadlift, right? So that's kind of the connection I had right away on how it's practical use to, deadlifting in general. So I just really appreciated that and learned something.
Absolutely. And that's really what we're trying to do here. That's why I said corrective exercises are just exercising correctly. We're trying to instill the same patterns that we'll be using in your sport, instill the same patterns that will keep us safe over the long period of time and allow us to train for longer and longer. So guys, let's jump into the next exercise and let's do it. All right, guys, so we went over Joey's ability to get into that good hip extension position. Now we're going to be working on the anterior core, working on his rib cage and pelvic positioning. This is a great exercise that can be progressed or regressed based on your specific needs, but we're going to do a fairly difficult version because he's a big, strong dude, and I know that he can handle it. So, banded dead bugs. Very simple to do. Joey, I'll have you lay down on your back for me. So what we're going to do, if you were just starting with this exercise, would just be a regular dead bug position. So, perfect. So if you notice, what we're going to have here is I want Joey to think about stacking rib cage and pelvis together, essentially pressing his lower back into the ground. What that's doing, activating his anterior core and allowing him to stack that rib cage and pelvis, which is, for powerlifting, for strongman, for anything, is the most powerful position for you to create force from. So this is the most basic level. You can obviously adjust. If you don't have access to bands, you can extend out with your legs, you can extend with your arms. But today we're going to be using an elitefts light band. So Joe, I'll actually have you scoot this way a little bit. So hold on to that band for me and pull it, separate and pull down. And the shakes.
Oh, God.
The shakes, here it is.
Oh, God.
So we're just going to hold that position. This is going to be level 1. All he's doing is holding, and I want him to now even breathe. Breathe. Good. And as you exhale, think about driving that rib cage down. We're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, rest.
I think we're finding the weak links in the chain here.
Right? So Joey's he won national levels at strongman in 2019. He was going to go for his pro card, compete with the best and strongest in the world. So his core on the surface is strong. And again, this is not a strength issue. This is a neurological signaling issue. This is a coordination issue. And what we're trying to do is just work on that. It looks like it's easy, but trust me guys, when you do this, you're probably going to be shaking way, way worse. So how we progress this, and this is where it gets really spicy, real spicy. What we want to do, we're going to get up in that same position, holding that dead bug position. Yep, so go hands, thumbs up. There you go. Driving that down. What we're doing, we're getting those lats involved. We're getting the core activated. We're getting the obliques involved. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to move this rickshaw, and he's going to extend his legs out one at a time, keeping that position with the other side. Oh, there you go. So now if you notice, we're working on greater degrees of hip extension. We're trying to get into the positions where his core is going to have to stabilize while he's doing other things. Squatting, deadlifting, I don't know, hamstring curls. All of this is great. So let's do 2 more. 1 and 2. Rest.
Whew.
So a couple things I want you to notice. His pelvis was not tipping. All of that motion was coming from the hips. It was not coming from the pelvis, which in turn was not coming from that lower spine. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to be able to stabilize that position through greater degrees of motion. And I mean, there's a million ways that you can make this more difficult, but starting with those two variations, I think will be really good.
Yeah, I love it. I could definitely feel that. It's something that I need to incorporate more in my training. And I think over time, it's only going to make me a better athlete.
Absolutely, especially with any front carry, any kegs, sandbags, Atlas stones. If you can lock that position in and get all that driving force through your hips, man, sky's the limit.
Love it.
All right, guys, so we're gonna jump into one more exercise. Let's do it. All right, guys, last exercise we're doing. If you notice, we went from static to dynamic. Now we're gonna get some movement in. It's gonna be a little bit more challenging, and it's gonna be a little bit closer to the training that Joey would probably be doing. So this is a front rack, a unilateral front rack kettlebell march. Sounds super complicated. Really, really not. It's gonna be working on the two other things that we were focusing in on at those first two exercises and just putting it all together. So Joey, what I'm gonna have you do, we're gonna get into that front rack kettlebell position. And if you wanna stand to the side, what I want him to focus in on is driving that shoulder blade forward into protraction. So pushing it out, there you go. And now thinking about tilting that rib cage down. So stabilize, yes. Holding that position, bracing out nice and hard. And now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna march. So now he's gonna be working on that degree of hip and knee flexion and extension as he marches and is forced to stabilize this position dynamically. So let's see it. Good. Nice and slow. So you don't wanna go super heavy on these. You wanna make sure every movement is perfect and that we're moving correctly the entire time. So I almost want a little bit more of a forward, but there you go. Keeping that weight over the front of that foot. Perfect. Starting to feel it?
Yeah.
So this is definitely something that you need to be able to feel to really understand what you're trying to do here. It looks very simple, but it's an exercise that you can utilize to work on a lot of different things at once. So a couple more steps. Good. And what he would do is then he would switch to the other side. So you can switch hands. And what we can find is the reason we do things unilaterally is so we can see if there's a weakness from one side to the other. So this side may actually feel a little bit better.
This feels worse. This side.
Feels worse?
Yeah.
There we go. So now what you can do is knowing that one side feels worse than the other, if you're stuck doing bilateral exercises the entire time, you're never gonna find these weaknesses. Normally, you find a weakness with a bilateral exercise when you hurt yourself, and we don't wanna do that. So this is a great tool and a great exercise that you can implement into your training to get a lot with focusing in on a lot of different things all at once. Sorry, I didn't want my cameraman to fall over boxes. So guys, thank you very much, Joey, for jumping in this video with me. Thank you very much for stopping by late, man. This was a fantastic experience.
Great.
He's saying that he learned a lot from us, but we definitely learned a lot from him and Juji as well. A very, very cool collab. And guys, check out all of Joey's information down below. He has a channel of his own. Yep. Super strong, knowledgeable guy. Is truly in it for the right reasons. He's somebody that if you're a young coach, if you're a young athlete, you need to look for and look at as a means of how to conduct yourself in the future, how to grow, how to develop, and how to help everybody around you. Joey, absolute pleasure, my man.
Had a blast. Thank you so much. And can't wait to use these exercises with my training to help just take me to become a better athlete. And anybody, no matter where you're at, beginner, intermediate, advanced, there's something you can take away from these videos we've been putting out. So just grateful to be here, and thank you so much.
Absolutely. Guys, as always, if you like these videos and if you want to see what led us to this position, the video is on Joey's channel. Check it out. The link will be wherever it happens to be. Down below, it's going to be in the title card, all these things. Check it out on Joey's channel so you can see all the fine details on how we actually ended up being here at the end of this exercise session, right? Look, he's still all sweaty and shit.
Yeah, dripping.
He's dripping. So guys, as always, like the video, subscribe, share it with people you love, share it with people you hate, whatever you want to do. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.